I'm in charge. I'll do this right, and I will make you very proud that you stuck with us. MUFAREH.
Imagine downloading a new application, and instead of just asking for your email address and a password, the loading screen promises to give you your identity, your status, and your hope for the future.
Right. It's a massive shift.
Yeah. Today we are looking at a tech pitch that reads, honestly, less like a standard software update and significantly more like a manifesto for a completely new utopian society.
It really is a profound shift in how digital infrastructure is presented to the public, We are examining this scenario where the standard metrics like gigabytes and processing speeds have been completely replaced by this intense, highly engineered emotional appeal.
Exactly. So welcome to today's deep dive. We are thrilled you're here with us. Today, you and I are going to unpack some incredibly fascinating excerpts from a text titled The Architecture of the Global Dream.
Quite the title.
Well, it really is. And specifically, we're looking at a message from a figure named MUFAREH. So our mission for this deep dive is to dissect the intense rhetoric of this message. We need to understand exactly what is supposedly being built here, how it's being pitched to the audience, and why the creator believes this specific project is the ultimate antidote to modern society.
Yeah, and this is a vital exercise in analyzing persuasion. The language used in these excerpts carries immense psychological weight.
Right.
When a creator strips away the technical jargon and replaces it with, unfiltered emotional promises, they are attempting to fundamentally rewire the relationship between the product and the user.
Wow, yeah.
So our goal is to look at the mechanics of that rewiring impartially to see exactly how those rhetorical levers are being pulled.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we even get into the actual mechanics of the project itself, we really have to look at the atmosphere of the announcement.
We do.
The text starts with what is described as a happy message. It states that they have been strategically focused on the main dream. And I just want to point out that the word dream is written in all capital letters.
Yeah, and that capitalization is a very specific typographical choice. It immediately signals to the reader that we are dealing with a concept that is elevated above just the standard business objective.
Right, it's not just a spreadsheet.
Exactly. It isn't a roadmap. It isn't a quarterly goal. By capitalizing dream, the text frames the project as this overarching, almost aspirational vision that demands a totally different level of emotional investment.
And the emotional intensity only escalates from there. I mean, the text continues, quote, as soon as I reach complete satisfaction with that, then we can unplug all the triggers with Victory with Ash and blow it up. We will have so much fun with it.
Yeah.
And then it finishes with the declaration, again in all caps, it's a done deal. And I read this, and I am immediately struck by the kinetic energy.
It's very high energy.
It is. Like, if I read this out of context, my first thought wouldn't be about a software launch. My mind goes to, I don't know, a head coach in a locker room hyping up a team for a championship game.
Oh, absolutely.
Or maybe a director teasing a massive summer blockbuster. It's highly visceral. So what is the psychological effect of phrasing a project launch as a literal victory that will blow it up?
Well, what's fascinating here is the deliberate blending of highly personalized branding with this atmosphere of joyous anticipation. Look closely at the phrase victory with Ash.
Okay.
It isn't framed as a victory for the corporation or, a victory for the engineering department. It's framed as a shared, deeply personal triumph alongside the creator himself.
Wow.
It establishes a parasocial bond.
But wait, I want to challenge that slightly. Because if I'm a consumer reading an announcement for a new digital platform, I'm still evaluating it as a product, aren't I? How does calling it a victory actually change my behavior as a user?
Because it attempts to shift your categorization of the event. Think about it. When you are evaluating a product, your critical faculties are highly active.
Right, I'm looking at the price, the specs.
Exactly. You look for flaws, you read reviews. But this language, unplug all the triggers, blow it up, have so much fun, that is the language of a celebration.
Oh, I see.
Psychologically, when you are invited to a celebration, your critical barriers naturally lower. You are no longer a consumer assessing a utility. You're being invited to participate in a monumental, shared historical event.
That makes a lot of sense. The tension has been built, the text literally says they're waiting for complete satisfaction. And it's creating this sense of imminent release.
Yes. And notice that absolute certainty, it's a done deal. That leaves zero room for skepticism.
Right.
The rhetoric is highly calculated to bypass the evaluation phase entirely and move the audience directly into a state of celebratory anticipation.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because eventually the hype has to transition into actual deliverables.
Right, you have to show what you're building.
Exactly. The text moves from this explosive done deal energy to a bulleted list of what this project is going to provide. And if you're listening to this pitch, you lean in, right? You're expecting the features.
Yeah.
But this list, I have to push back on this. I'm genuinely confused by the pivot here.
The list of provisions is a complete departure from industry norms.
It really is. Usually a platform promises you tangible functional things. Seamless integration, expanded storage, maybe faster connectivity.
There.
But the 10 pillars listed in this text are, get this, clarity, relief, opportunity, simplicity, identity, hope, momentum, status, ease, and transformation.
It's quite a list.
I mean, identity, status, hope. These aren't technical specifications. These are massive, intangible, deeply human needs. Are we overthinking this? Like, is it possible this is just aggressive marketing fluff? Or is there a specific mechanism at work when a tech platform promises hope?
It goes much deeper than standard marketing fluff. If you analyze those 10 words, you can see they're systematically grouped to target very specific modern anxieties.
Okay.
Let's break down the first cluster. Clarity, relief, simplicity, and ease.
Well, if I look at my own life, those words appeal to the feeling of just being completely overwhelmed.
Precisely the point. Promising relief and clarity is a rhetorical technique that diagnoses a societal pain point without stating it overtly. By offering relief, the text implies that the reader's current daily life is inherently confusing, stressful, and chaotic.
Which, to be fair, it often is.
Right. If you think about the modern digital experience, the constant notifications, the fractured attention, the endless accounts you have to manage, it is exhausting.
It's so exhausting.
The text is leveraging that exhaustion. It's stating, we recognize the friction of your life and we are the cure.
That is a staggering amount of weight to put on an application, but then it moves into the next phase.
Yeah, the second cluster is opportunity and momentum. This transitions the pitch from merely alleviating pain to generating forward motion.
Yeah.
You're no longer just surviving the chaos, you are advancing. But the final cluster is where the text makes its most profound claims. Identity, status, hope, and transformation.
That is the part that really tripped me up. How does a digital project manufacture identity? Like a hammer doesn't give me my identity. A spreadsheet doesn't give me my status. I just don't see the mechanism there.
The mechanism relies on elevating the product from a mere tool into a comprehensive ecosystem.
What do you mean?
Well, a tool is transactional, right? You use it and put it away.
Yeah.
But a closed ecosystem, like a community, a lifestyle brand, or a structural hierarchy, that is where human beings derive status.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Think about how early adoption of certain technologies or exclusive access to closed social networks historically conferred societal status.
Yeah, like having the right invite code.
Exactly. By explicitly listing identity and status as deliverables, the text claims that participating in this project will define who you are and where you stand in the world. It is promising a fundamental transformation of the self, mediated entirely through their architecture.
So it's essentially saying you don't just use this platform, you become an integrated part of this platform.
Right.
Which naturally leads to the most practical question of this entire deep dive. How?
The mechanics.
Yes.
Yeah.
If I am buying into this identity and this relief, what actually is the thing I'm logging into? And that brings us to the functional core of this dream. The text provides a mechanical concept. It states, quote, one platform application that does everything. One login. One subscription. One place where everything is connected.
That's the core of it.
And it leaves the door open for infinite expansion, mentioning everything this project can eventually become.
Yeah, this is the architectural reality meant to deliver those massive emotional promises, the ultimate convergence of digital life.
When I read that, my mind immediately went to the analogy of a universal remote control. But, like, a universal remote applied to your entire digital and perhaps personal existence. Everything you need routed through one single button.
A powerful image.
But I have to challenge this premise. The text frames one login, one subscription as the ultimate convenience. It fulfills that promise of simplicity and ease we just analyzed.
Right.
But if I'm being honest, it also sounds a bit terrifying. Is the primary appeal here genuinely just convenience? Or is this actually a pitch for total centralization and control?
This raises an important question, and it highlights the central tension of the entire project design. On the surface, the appeal is undeniably about eliminating friction.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask anyone listening to this right now about password fatigue, they will understand. We all juggle dozens of subscriptions, a multitude of applications that refuse to communicate with one another, and these fractured digital identities.
That's a mess.
So the promise of one place where everything is connected is an incredibly seductive vision of order.
Right. The idea of just logging in once and having your finances, your communication, your work, and your social life perfectly organized is very appealing.
But the architecture required to deliver that frictionless experience demands an unprecedented level of centralization. The universal remote analogy is a helpful starting point, but it actually understates the architecture here.
How so?
Well, a remote just changes the channel on independent devices. This text describes one platform application that does everything. That means the platform becomes the sole gatekeeper to your digital existence.
No.
To receive the promised relief, you must hand over the keys.
That is a massive trade-off. Extreme convenience requires extreme consolidation. Because if that single platform goes down, or heaven forbid if you lose your one login, everything goes down.
Everything.
You lose your connectivity, your momentum, and according to their own list of pillars, you literally lose your identity and status.
That is the inherent risk of a completely enclosed ecosystem.
Yeah.
You're placing an immense amount of trust in a single centralized hub.
Right.
And the phrase, everything this project can eventually become, is a crucial piece of the puzzle. It indicates that this architecture is not a static, finished product.
It's going to grow.
It's designed as a living, expanding entity. It intends to absorb more and more functions over time, meaning the centralization will only deepen. The user becomes increasingly tethered to the platform for their daily functioning.
Which means the person or the entity building this universe holds an extraordinary amount of power.
Absolutely.
So to truly understand why MUFAREH is so confident that people will willingly hand over that level of control, we have to look at how he views the current state of the world outside of his project.
The context is key here.
The text reaches a peak of excitement here. He states, "I have never been this excited in my entire life, nor I know anyone in the world ever been so fired up for such a dream to finally come true."
He's very passionate.
He is staking his entire emotional credibility on this. But it's the justification for the project that I found most striking. He says, quote, "In a very long time, we haven't heard good news in this messy world. It's time to change it around."
That sentence is the rhetorical linchpin of the entire document.
So what does this all mean? Because to me, the ambition just shifted entirely. This isn't about a successful software launch anymore. When you say it's time to change it around, referring to the whole world, this is explicitly being positioned as a global course correction.
It is.
Help me analyze this pivot. How do we go from a tech platform that connects your apps to a project acting as a global savior coming to rescue a messy world?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it relies on a highly effective rhetorical device, creating a stark binary contrast.
Right.
On one side of the binary, you have the messy world. That specific phrase, messy world, is doing a tremendous amount of heavy lifting.
What does it represent?
It represents the chaotic news cycle, the fractured digital landscape, the stress, the lack of clarity, and the lack of hope that people experience daily. It is everything external to the project.
So the messy world is the enemy. It's the daily friction, the password resets, the overwhelming anxiety.
Yes. And on the other side of the binary, you have the pristine, organized, joyful architecture of the global dream. By framing the outside world as inherently messy and devoid of good news, the text positions this centralized platform not as a product competing in a crowded marketplace, but as a sanctuary.
It's a sanctuary.
It functions rhetorically like an ark.
An arc. That is a brilliant way to conceptualize it.
It is the ultimate good news. And the phrase good news carries historical, almost gospel-like connotations. It isn't just a favorable press release. It is a declaration of salvation from the messiness.
Wow.
This is how the text justifies its immense ambition and the extreme centralization it demands. It isn't asking you to buy a subscription because the user interface is slightly better. It is telling you that you need the walled garden because the outside world is dangerous and chaotic.
It's essentially saying, we have built the life raft. We have the one login that will pull you out of the mess.
Exactly that. And when you view the project as a sanctuary, suddenly all those massive emotional promises from earlier, the hope, the identity, the relief, They fit perfectly within the logic of the text.
Oh, I see.
Of course, the platform provides your identity. It is the entirely new, ordered world you are stepping into. You are leaving the messy identity behind. It is a classic utopian narrative mapped directly onto digital architecture.
It is a masterclass in engineered rhetoric when you look at all the pieces working together. Let's take a second to recap the journey we've been on in this deep dive, because it is a fascinating progression of ideas.
It really is a journey.
We started by analyzing that explosive, joyful hype, the anticipation of the main dream, and the intensely personal victory with Ash. We explored how phrasing a launch as a celebration psychologically lowers critical barriers and invites pure participation instead of consumer evaluation.
Right. We then examine how the pitch subverted expectations by replacing technical specifications with those 10 profound emotional pillars.
Right. Instead of processing speeds, we were promised clarity, relief, status, and transformation. We broke down how those specific words diagnose modern exhaustion and attempt to elevate the project from a simple utility into a comprehensive lifestyle provider.
Which led us right into the mechanics of the one app.
Yes, the ultimate digital convergence. We debated that intense tension between the beautiful simplicity of one login, one subscription, and the extreme centralization required to put your entire existence into one place where everything is connected.
The constant trade-off between absolute convenience and total reliance on a single gatekeeper.
And finally, we arrived at the ultimate justification for that centralization, the savior complex. The framing of this massive project as an arc plane, the much-needed good news arriving to course-correct a fundamentally messy world.
It's a bold claim.
It really is an incredible vision of what digital infrastructure can supposedly be. So, to you listening to this right now, I want to pose a question about your own relationship with the digital world. Think about the devices in your pocket and the platforms you log into every day. What are you actually looking for?
That's a great question.
Are you genuinely just looking for a simple tool to send a message or organize a file? Or if you are being really honest with yourself, are you sometimes searching for the things promised in this text? Are you looking for a little bit of relief from the cognitive load, a sense of community, a feeling of status or identity in a world that often does feel incredibly messy? It's worth reflecting on what we are truly demanding from our technology and how much we're willing to hand over to get it.
That is the critical reflection this text provokes. And as you consider your own digital footprint, I want to leave you with one final thought to ponder based on the sheer scale of the architecture we've discussed today.
I'm ready for it.
If a single visionary platform actually succeeds in its ultimate goal, if it truly becomes the one perfect sanctuary, the one place where everything is connected, and it successfully provides your clarity, your status, and your very identity through just one login, what happens to our sense of self if we ever decide to log out?